To another episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. And today I am joined by Łukasz Rosiński to talk about his latest released game, Bee Simulator.
Hello, very nice meeting you and very nice hearing you. I'm Lucas. I'm the founder of the company that developed the game. B Simulator is also my idea for a computer game. So we may talk a lot about our game. If you have good questions, let's ask them.
Okay, so introduction. You already said you're the lead of the company. So when did you first become interested in video games?
So I'm like 35 years old, and I started playing computer games when I was 5. So it's around 30 years that I'm playing computer games. So I'm like a little bit old in that industry. But of course, at the beginning, like 30 years ago, it was like completely different games, completely different like computers. But like I was the first one on my part of the city that had a computer. And then I was the first one that had the CD, so disc reader or writer. So yeah, the history of computer games is very, very long in my life. I started with the PC that I had. It was 386 DX3. So I don't know whether you remember that kind of computers, but like it was one of the best computers that times, with 2 MB of RAM, as I remember. So and all the computer games that were on the market, I was able to play them on that machine. So very, very, very far away when I started playing games.
Okay, and what would you say is was your favorite game or games growing up?
So I spent, I don't know, hundreds of hours or thousands of hours with Diablo, the first one, Diablo. It wasn't the first game that I was playing, but it was the first one that took me so long. So the first one, the second one was also like it took me even longer, as I remember. The third one wasn't like that good for me. It's too modern. It's like too normal computer game. I'm waiting for the fourth Diablo to play it. The second game, definitely Half-Life. It took me also hundreds of hours to play, and some old style like Quake and Duke Nukem. Definitely the games that I played long with my brother, like playing on the LAN together. So many games that I played when I was young.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game or games now?
When you develop computer games, you don't specifically have much time to play computer games like other computer games than your computer game. So I'm not like the same. I'm much more casual player right now than I was a hardcore player earlier. But definitely The Witcher, the third Witcher, the whole series of the Witcher games. And it's not because it's a Polish game, because I'm from Poland, and we know that the Witcher is the Polish game, but like because of the style, because of the art, because of the animations, and because, of course, the fact that I read books from Andrzej Sapkowski, so the author of books, the Witcher books, that the game is basing on. It's very good that like only in 12 days there will be a series on Netflix also in the world of Witcher. So this is currently definitely the game that I play the most.
Okay, now we move on to the meat and potatoes of the game. If we were at a PAX right now and someone was walking by your booth, how would you pitch the game Bee Simulator to them, and as is explaining what it's all about?
So, definitely a good shot because B Simulator attended all the PAXs. So, PAX East, PAX West, and PAX South. Maybe not all. There are four of them. So I've been on all of them personally. So I was pitching B Simulator to many people on PAX. So definitely, it's not a normal game. It's not a game that when you read the name, then you will know what the game is about. Definitely, it's also not a typical simulator game. So what we call Big Simulator is an action game with elements of simulation and education. This is our idea for the game. So we wanted to have the real life of bees in our game. We wanted to have like a funny, interesting action game because only when you have an interesting game with interesting gameplay elements, you will be able to give some education in the meantime. So I don't believe in educational games. So games that don't have gameplay, games that like don't give you fun because they like can't educate you because not many people will buy it. So what we decided is to have this educational part of our game used very wisely, so we don't overuse it. We don't like force player to educate. We do it, as I said, in the meantime. So when you play, you will definitely know much more about bees after finishing our game. Of course, not all elements in our game are from the real. They are all from the real life of bees, but they are like a computer game style simulation. So definitely we use the real world of these animals, but we use it very creatively to have like a interesting experience, not only educational experience.
Okay. And where did the idea for Bee Simulator come from? Was it something you've always had in the back of your head, or is it an idea that came up in the more recent years?
So I am in the gaming industry, so like 7 years now, and I've been in three different companies as a member of the board. So I was like from India on the other side of the gaming industry, so not only by playing computer games but also developing them. And I've seen that only the games that were successful were the games that had an idea behind them. So when you want to have a successful game on the crowded market of computer games, definitely seek for an interesting idea for a game, not just an idea. So this is funny, but it's like 100% true that this is my idea, and I came up to this game when I was reading a book to my daughter, and my daughter is now 6 years old. When she was about 3.5 years old, I read a book called Bees to her. It's not a typical book. It's a book like mainly about interesting things that are going on inside the hive with very beautiful pictures.
Hmm.
And when I finished reading the book, I thought that, whoa, it's like a ready scenario for a computer game. I checked whether that kind of game has already been on the market. So there was no such game on the market. And like the idea, I had this idea around December 2016, and we started developing the game about April 2017. So it took me like 4 or 5 months to start a company, to gather a small team of people, and to start developing this game. And like now it's much bigger, but at the beginning it's supposed to be a small game. Now it's much bigger.
Okay. And how would you describe how the game plays to someone who just saw it and is curious to learn more about it?
So what we wanted to have in our game is to inspire by the real world of bees. So all the mechanics that in our game are based on the real mechanics, real things that are going on with the bees or inside the hive. So our game is an action game with four core mechanics. So the first mechanics is like 98% of the life of a bee. So collecting pollen is the main mechanics that we've got in our game. But what we made very interesting is that you may collect the pollen just by flying through the flowers, but you may change the perspective. So normally we play with the third person perspective mode. You may change it to the first person perspective mode. Then you see the world like people think that bees see the world. So we call this mode bee vision. Bee vision is ultraviolet with hundreds of like ocelli, so a kind of eyes. And only using this bee vision, you will be able to find epic, unique, and rare pollen around the map. The map. So coming back to the game, the main location in our game is inspired by Central Park, New York. So it's a huge location. So on this location, apart from flying and collecting pollen, you will find like natural enemies of bees, like wasps, like hornets, and they fight with each other when the wasps or hornets are in the hive and are trying to steal some honey. So we also have fighting in our game. Fighting is like one of my favorite mechanics in our game. It's a mechanics that we prototyped like 7 times, and we checked many different ways how to do it because we wanted to have a very, very interesting experience with fighting. And I think that we managed to have it very interesting. The third mechanics in our game is also based on the real life of bees. So this is a dance mechanics. Bees communicate with each other by dancing, and they are doing it also in our game, and they are dancing. And the fourth mechanics in our game is racing. So we've got three like ways of racing. So you just race with each other on a split screen mode. We also have, apart from single player campaign, we have a local split screen multiplayer mode. So you may race with each other with other player. We've got chasing. So you have to chase another bee, and you may do it on time or not. Definitely, what we wanted to have from our game is to be interesting both for kids and for adults. Of course, the main like player definitely will be like kids playing our game, but we wanted to have both easy and hard mechanics, so we implemented both of them. Easy mode is definitely for kids, and the hard mode is like for kids that are experienced in our game and for generally experienced players. And those modes are different in mechanics. So not only that it's harder to play, the mechanics are different in the hard mode. So this is like definitely a unique part of our game that you may play a game and have fun both when you are a kid and when you are an experienced player.
Okay, and you mentioned it a bit already, but what would you say is your absolute favorite aspect of the game?
So I must say that this is the first game of our studio. So and it's an experimental project, definitely. And I think that the aspect that definitely I like the most is, of course, the fighting that I like from the mechanics part is the fighting mechanics. But from general view is that we were able to balance the game properly between a game that is like an action game and gives you fun, a game that is showing you some interesting things that are going on in the life of bees, and gives you some simulation aspects. So the mechanics that all of them are inspired by nature. And I think that this balance is something that I'm definitely proud of, because it gives many players different perspective and gives them possibility to like our game. And we see that we managed to have it. So there are players that like our game because it's interesting in gameplay. Some of them like it because it's interesting just to fly around as a bee. And some of them, for example, beekeepers, like our game because our game is telling very interesting things about bees to young kids that will definitely know how important bees are for our environment, uh, how big problems they've got currently. And only using that kind of medium like computer games, you are able to get in touch with young people and tell them something. So this is not a typical part of our game, but the aspect that I like the most is definitely this balance between how we do it, how we did the game.
Okay, and what would you say is one of the more challenging parts of making the game? Like, what would you say gave you the most trouble?
So our game is on the market, has been released simultaneously on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch the same day. All of them in the box version and digital version. And like the toughest part of the game was to optimize the game properly on all the consoles. You must remember that we are a bee in the world of trees, in the world of animals, in the world of buildings. So everything is huge in our game. Last week I had an interview, very technical interview, and I told this journalist that the scale in our game is like 68 times the scale that normally we play computer games when you play as a human. So it took us like half a year to port the game on consoles, and it was very hard to have it, especially on Nintendo Switch, because it's of course from the hardware side, it's the weakest console, and we definitely wanted to have it on Nintendo Switch because there is a lack of that kind of games. But this perspective, so the perspective of a very small insect in the world of that kind of big elements, is something that was completely abnormal for consoles, especially the Switch. And it was very hard to do it. We had to use many patents. We had to use some special team that helped us to finish this port for Nintendo Switch. And definitely, this is something that, as a very young studio, it's definitely a part of our work that I am proud of, because we did it. Like, we had the simultaneous release of our game on the 14th of November on all the consoles. And as I checked, there is no such game in Poland that was simultaneously released on all the consoles. And I checked that there were only 2 games in Europe that did it as we. So this is something that when we were starting to develop the game, we haven't dreamed of. So this was something that took us much more time than we thought, and much more effort that we had to put into it.
Okay, and how long did Bee Simulator take to make from idea to finished and fully released product?
So, as I told you, we started about April 2017. So it's about 2.5 years that we developed the game. But you must remember that this project, at the beginning, supposed to be a small simulator game. So my idea after reading this book was to, okay, so let's have a typical simulator game. When we started to show the game, a prototype of the game on different fairs, the first fair that we showed the prototype of our game was Tokyo Game Show 2017. So like half a year after starting the development. And the amount of people that played the game on Tokyo Game Show and the amount of positive reactions of those people forced us to make a like much bigger game, like a computer game, not a simulator game.
Mm-hmm.
And after Gamescom 2018, so 1.5 years ago, we had like we officially showed the first trailer of the game, so announcement trailer of the game. And the announcement trailer was a huge success. It was about 2 million views all around the internet, and like 50,000 comments of people that wanted to like check the game. They liked the idea. And it was the second step that we decided to expand the game. So we added the split screen mode around Gamescom 2018. So after Gamescom, we added this easy mode and hard mode after Gamescom. So the development won't be that long if we haven't decided like to expand the game and to make it much bigger. But like we wanted to have it as a much bigger game because we've seen how positive reactions of the players were in like on the internet during the fairs. Now B Simulator is definitely a like medium game, maybe not a huge game like Witcher, but it's not a small game like a typical simulator. Especially that we after the single player campaign we also added something special for kids, so we call it the free flight mode. Free flight mode gives you possibility to play B Simulator like tens of hours, because you have to like collect everything that is collectible, achieve every achievement on the map. So you play tens of hours after finishing the single player campaign. And this was also a part of the game that I personally wanted to have. So I play, for example, Lego games with my kids, and Lego games are mostly like basing on like collecting everything and going around the map for tens of hours. And this is fun for kids. So we wanted to have also this part in our game.
Okay. And yeah, so like as you said before, the game is out now and is currently available on all current generation consoles as well as PC.
Yes.
Okay. Where, like, what types of resources did you use to get like all the like factual information about bees that you'd need for the game?
This is a very good question. So we wanted to have as close to reality as possible game. So from the beginning of developing the game, we cooperate with beekeepers here in Poland, and one of the beekeepers have also been he's a computer games player also. So especially him, he helped us balance between having this game and having this simulator elements. So most of the knowledge that our team gathered during the development was from like A, books, B, movies that we've seen around bees, C, the knowledge from the beekeepers that they told us. And we attended many like meetings with beekeepers to talk with them and to generally to have the most interesting parts of the life of bees, because like definitely the typical life of a bee is not that interesting like in our game, because most of the bees like they live from 2 to 4 weeks. So some of them won't meet any wasp or hornet during their life. But definitely the game is much more interesting than the normal life of bees. But everything, like thanks to the knowledge that we gathered during the development, is in our game from the real life of bees.
Okay. Now, time for the final question, which everyone who's ever been on the show has always understood perfectly, and there's never been any confusion on. Lucas, in your opinion, is video games?
Yeah. I know that it's like one of the questions that you ask to everyone. So uh, my understanding of this question is are computer games like currently computer games are mostly games that are based on video, so like everything is fully real. You see everything like from the real life, especially with this AAA games with the highest possible quality. And I don't think that it's the only way to have computer games. So I remember the beginnings of computer games, and the graphics were not that high quality, like completely uncomparable to the current one. And we had fun playing games even without graphics. So it's all about gameplay, in my opinion. So not only graphics is the part of the game you should consider when you think of a good game. Definitely, my experience personal is that I had the funnest time with computer games when I was like enjoying the gameplay, enjoying the story that is in the game,
Mm-hmm.
not always having the best quality. So, like, this is my answer: is video games.
Okay. And with that, we come to the conclusion of this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. I would like to thank Lucas for joining me to talk about
Thank
his game Bee Simulator. And if any of the -7 people who watched this show enjoyed it, you can go to beesimulator.com to get it get a copy of the game in either physically or digitally on the platform of your choice. If for some reason you liked what you were listening to, feel free to like and subscribe to the Pumpkin Copter Cast. If for some reason, after you're done giving Lucas money by buying Bee Simulator, if you wish to give me a money, you can go to patreon.com/thepumpkincoptercast and give as much or as little money as you want if you want to. And yes, this has been the Pumpkin Copter Cast, and as I always say at the end of every show, thanks to friend of the show Ashley Jenkins. Have a gourd day, everyone.
Thank you very much. See you and bye bye.